Hi guys, in this session we're going to put our CSS skills in action. All the skills we've learned so far, all the classes, all the different CSS methodologies, all the flexbox and all that, we're going to put it in action and we're going to build a very beautiful user interface that is usable by actual users in the real world. So let's look at Facebook UI. Let's go to the Facebook login page. So let's try and replicate this today with our CSS skills. Right here you can see that there are different elements, there are different CSS elements as well as HTML elements, okay, different things. So we're going to build it real quick and I hope you are ready. So let's build this from scratch. So to get started, we're just going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it Facebook login. Then we're going to open our folder on VS Code. Let's just open it real quick using VS Code. Okay, so we have our new Facebook folder directory. It's empty, so let's just create some files. Let's create index.html. Okay, let's create a second file. Let's call it style and our CSS. Okay, this is our CSS file. And let's just create a template of our HTML, HTML5 template. So there's a shortcut with VS Code. Just hit exclamation mark and you get these two options. You enter the first one and you get your basic setup. Okay, if you remember, we have our doc type, HTML, head and body. Okay, so this is basic. VS Code gives you this. Then we're just gonna link our style sheet real quick. Let's just link our style sheet at the load the head, say link, yeah, style sheet, let's call it style, yeah, so that's our style.css. Okay, so now we've linked our CSS file, which means our classes here will be accessible here. So let's create a class real quick. Let's call it container. Okay, and our class is going to have display flex, then flex direction row. Yeah, it's going to be row. And justify content, it's going to be center. Okay, so we have our basic setup. All right, so we have our container. So let's create a div and give it a class of container. Just create it. Okay, so it means every other div I create inside this container class would be displayed in flex, and it would be on a grid on a row flex. Okay, so it's just gonna say, let's see, 1. Let me just write 1 here. Just so you can see, and here I'm going to write 2. Okay, just to save it. So let me open this. Okay, so let's open this. Yeah, so as you can see, our 1 and 2, they're in the middle and they are in the flex direction. So that's good. So if you look at it, we have this in the left and we have this in the right. So we're going to create a left container and a right container. Okay, so just going to go back to our CSS. Let's see, let's create another class. Let's call it .left. Another class .right. Okay, let's just leave them blank for now. We're not going to use them. So let's just let's take our this by the left, by the right, and this by the left. So we can see our code and refresh as we are going. Okay, so let's take a look at the Facebook login page layout and see. So as you can see, we have some elements by the left and we have some element by the right, and then there's a space at the top. Okay, so we have created this layout, so let's give it a space at the top. So let's go back to our code. Let's give it a space. So let's say left. Let's give left margin. Let's see margin top. Margin top. Let's give it 4%. 4%. Okay, let's copy the same and apply it to margin bottom. Let's see. So let's refresh. Okay, so I think it's down a bit. Okay, so we're going to start with the left hand side. Let's open Facebook once again. On the screen you would see there's an image, and then there is a write up. Okay, so let's just as you can see, this is an image. This is how you know that it's an image. Once you right click on it, you can ask you to open image in a new tab, and then see this is the image. So let's just save the image for now. Let's save it as, let's just save the image, let's save it on desktop. Okay, so let's save it on desktop. We'll use it for later. So so to take care of this left hand part, let's go back to our code base. Let's go to the left. Okay, this is the left, so we're going to create a div just for the image. So we're going to put the image property here. So let's say image img source. So let's get the source to level up from the desktop. Facebook. Okay, this is it. So let's just save and see. Let's see. Yes, but it's too big, as you can see. Let's just make it wide. As you can see, this is taking the entire page, and then we have so this is taking the entire page. So let's make it smaller. Okay. All right. So let's give it a class. Let's give it a class. Let's see, class name. We've not created a class, but I'll create it. So let's give it a class name. Let's see, FB logo. Let's say FB logo, and then save, and then let's come here and create a new class anywhere we want. Let's say .fb logo. Just make sure the class name is exactly as what you type. Let's say logo. So let's give it a height of let's see 100 px and see. Fingers crossed. Hope it aligns. So let's refresh. Yes. Okay, yeah. So you can see our Facebook is small. So let me just remove this one so you can see that. So we don't need this anymore. I will come to this. Yeah, so we see our interface is taking shape. So let's come and put the write up. So you can see the write up by the below the Facebook logo. So let's put the write up. Okay, let's just copy the write up here. Let's just copy it and then let's put it in there. So let's put it below the Facebook. Let's give it a H2. Let's just give it a H2. Okay, so let's just paste it there and save. Let's see. Yes, so it's taking shape. So this left part is taking a lot of space because it has a lot of characters, you know, and this right hand part is just taking so much space. So let's give it a definite size, you know, a fixed size, so that it won't be affecting this the right hand side. So let's go back to the left class. Left. Okay, so let's give it a width. Let's give it a fixed width. Let's say 400 pixels. Okay, so that it won't be affecting the right hand part. So let's just refresh. Yes, so you can see if even if we expand it, the width is fixed, you know, it won't affect this. Okay, so you can see we're creating something. So let's go back to our code. Let's just go back. So we have our width. So let's give this font some styling as well. Let's give it some styling. Okay, so let's create a class. Let's call the class let's say subtitle. Okay, let's call it subtitle. Then what do we have in subtitle? Let's give it a font size. Let's give it a font size. Let's say font size of let's say 28 pixels. Let's say 28 pixels. Then refresh. Yep. Oh, we haven't connected our subtitle to the element. Okay, so let's go to class. Let's give it a class of subtitle. Okay, so refresh. 28 pixels. Yeah, it's big. Then what else can we do? Let's give it a line height. Let's give it a line height. Line height of let's say 28 pixels as well. Okay, so we should take it. Okay, so it has adjusted. Okay, so what else? Let's give it a font weight. Let's give font weight of normal. See normal. Okay. Yeah, so we're just so you can see that the font is normal now. Is looking kind of like similar to the right up here. Okay. So the font weight is normal. So another thing we want to do is I think we should leave the subtitle like this. It's looking kind of good. Let's focus on the image. The image is farther than the right things. Okay, so let's just give it some. Let's give it some CSS. Let's give the image some CSS. Okay. So for starters, we're just going to increase the size of the image. So let's come to the logo. Let's make it 150 pixels. Let's save that and refresh. Yes, it's bigger. So let's leave it like this. So we can see that it's a little bit into the right part. So let's see margin left. Let's say minus 25 pixel. Let's say 26 pixels. So we can bring it back a bit. Yeah. So at least it's a bit aligned. Let's make it 28 so it can come back more. Okay, so it's a bit aligned, and then it's very far from the top to bottom. It's very far. So let's remove every margin top. Let's make it 0 pixels from the subtitle to the image. So yeah, so that will push it up a bit. Then let's go back into the you remember we put this image in a div, so we can also control the image position inside the div. So let's give it a class name. Let's say class of let's say image box. Let's say image container. Okay, let's say image container. So let's create a class for image container. Dot image container. Okay, so let's give it a padding. See padding top. Let's give it 114 pixels. I want to bring it down a bit. Let's see if we can see how we get. Yeah, so it's down a bit, so the padding top is down. So we still want to bring this Facebook to very close. We need them very close. So let me increase the size. So instead of, let's see, minus 10, let's see, minus 10 pixels, minus 10 pixels. Okay, and let's see if, yeah, so let's make it 20 then. Let's make it 20, yeah, very close, or 25, or maybe 20. Let's make it 28 pixels. So yeah, so you can see our left hand part is taking shape. If we want to increase, let's make it I think we can leave it like this. So you can see that let's go back to the original Facebook logo. Let's bring it back. Yeah, so you can see that our left hand side is taking shape. It's looking like it. So let's start working on the right hand bit. So starting with the right part, we're going to design this container where the form is in. Then you would notice that the container has a white background, has a gray shadow. There are some spaces between the form field and the buttons. So let's start creating the container where the form is in. So let's go back to our code base. So let's look at let's call it the class. Let's call it form container. Okay. Let's call the class form container. Let's give it a width. Let's give it a width of 400 pixels. Remember, we gave the left hand also a width of 400. So let's give it a width of 400 pixels. Let's say 400 pixels. Okay, so that means it's going to be 400 pixels. So let's come here. Let's just copy this class name so we don't mistype it. And we're going to create another div. Let's remove that too as a placeholder. Let's call it class I'll give it a class name. So paste that class name. Let's call it form container. Okay. So we're getting our form container set. Okay. So let's just save this. Okay. So we have our form container set. You see, this width that we added in the form container is now pushing back this left hand side. Okay. So we have our form container. So let's further style it. Okay, so let's give it a height of let's say 350 pixels. Give it a height of 350 pixels. Okay, so yep. So let's just save it. You won't see anything because there's nothing in the container. 350 pixels. So let's give it that gray box, this gray shadow. So let's write the CSS. So for the gray shadow, let's say there's a property called box shadow. Okay. So this box shadow, now we want to define the shadow of the box. So let's give it 0 at the top, and then give it 2 pixels at the right, and then 4 pixels at the bottom. Okay. Then let's define the shadow color. Okay. So let's give it gray. Let's say gray. Okay, let's use gray for it. Okay, so let's save it and see what happens. Okay, so we can see our box. Let me just open it. So you can see our box is taking shape. Yeah, so kind of something like this, but then our box is taking shape. So let's just give it a margin top. Let's see, 4 to 5 pixels. So it can be down a bit. Okay. So let me refresh. Yeah, so it's down a bit. So then we want to add another shadow property. Okay, so let's say let's give it 0px because there are two shadows. Let's say 0px at the top, then 8px 8px at the left, then let's say 16px the right, and let's give it another color. Let's say gray. Let's say dark gray, because there are just two shades of gray here. So let's use this gray and see. Okay, so yeah, so you can see our the shadow is more like pronounced, something like this, but you get the idea. So this is how you create shadow in using CSS. Okay, so we've created our shadow. Then I think the next thing we want to do is maybe just make this because you can see the edges are smooth. Let's put a little bit of border radius in the form container. So let's go to our class. Let's see, border radius. How many pixels? Let's try 9 pixels and see. Okay, yeah, so you see the edges are now smooth. Okay, the border radius is taking the effect. Okay, good. So I think okay, so let's just make a full screen and see at this point. Yeah, so it kind of looked like our Facebook screen. Okay, so just some little font changes, but I think it's kind of looking like our Facebook screen. Okay, so I think this does it. And then let's put a border box sizing. Okay, box sizing. Let's see, border box. Okay, so let's save it. Let's refresh. Okay, so you can see. So let's give it a little bit of margin by the left. Let's give this form container a margin. Let's see, margin left. Margin left. Let's give it 100 and say 60 pixels, just so we can push it to the left a bit. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, okay, good. So you see there's a little bit of space. I think 160 is too much, but yeah. Okay, so let's give this subtitle because the line is cutting after share, but our own is cutting after and. So let's give it let's give it a width subtitle. Let's say width. Let's give it a width of let's say 590. Let's say 490 pixels. Let's say 490 pixels. Okay, so let's check. Yeah, so the width is taking shape. Okay, so 490 pixels. 490 looks okay. Okay, so it's taking shape. So let's just let's add our form fields inside the container. Okay, form elements, we're just gonna go into the box right here. Let's just bring this guy. Yep, we're just gonna go into this box right here and create our form element. So let's go into this form container. Let's create a form. Yep, so let's create a form. Then inside the form we'll have let's have input field. Okay, let's create an input field. Type text. Let's create a placeholder for it. Let's see what do we have in the placeholder. It says enter email address or phone number. Okay, let's see, email address or phone number. Okay, yeah, okay, so we have this. So let's create another one. Let's create another form field. Placeholder is password. Okay, so let's see, password. Let's clean this guy's password. So this type is email. I'm gonna make it email, and this type of input field is password. Okay, so let's look at our form field and our input fields. Okay, so we have our input fields, but as you can see, they are not they are not looking good. So let's style them up. Okay, so let's begin by putting them in a div. Let's give div. So let's create a container. Remember, always put the elements in a container so you can style the container around them. So let's get this guy here. Let's paste here. So put it in the div. So let's create another div. Div. Okay, so let's put the second input field in the second div. Okay, so let's create a class. Let's call it form input. Form input. Okay, so let's leave it empty for now, and let's copy the form input, link it so we can just be editing the style. Okay, so let's give it a class name form input. Okay, class name form input. Yeah. So let's just save it. So these input fields are currently connected. So let's give them a padding. Let's say padding. Let's say 10 pixels, so we can separate them. If you remember, we did something like this when I was explaining Flexbox. So let's save it and okay. All right, I think 10 is true. Let's make it 6 pixels. Okay, all right, looks good. So we have a padding. So we need to make this form field fill this entire area, of the form container. Okay, so let's create a class. Let's give it so we come to the form element and create a class, another class for it. Remember, this class is just for the container around inside that the form is sitting in. Then you create another class. Let's call it let's create a class. Let's call it email input. Okay, email input. So let's copy the class and then create it. Set dot email input. Input. Okay, so let's save it so our class will start taking instructions from the class. So email input, let's give it a width first. Let's give it a width let's say 300, let's say 340 pixels. Let's see. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's good. So let's pad it a bit more so it can compensate the space. So let's see padding. Let's say 14 pixels up, and then 16 pixels. Okay, so let's, yeah, so the padding works. Let's just give it a little bit of more width. Let's add maybe 7, make it 347. Okay, all right, so make it 348 then. Okay, so let's refresh. All right, so let's give it a bit of a border because you can see Facebook has a border. So let's give it a border. Let's see border radius. Let's see border radius. Let's use 10 pixels. Hope it's not so much. 10 pixels. Okay, we have our border now. You see, we have a border. Then we want to give it a height. Let's just give it a little bit of height. Let's say 20 pixels for the height. Okay, so we've increased the height of the Facebook email field. Okay, so let's work on the password. Let's work on the password field. So let's create a class. Let's call it password input. Okay, so let's save this and come and attach it to the password input. Let's see class password input. So we are definitely going to copy some of the styles like the width and the padding, basically everything. So we're just going to copy these guys and paste it here. So the password will automatically take the styles. Yes, so we have our password. So we still need to add a bit of a padding here by the left. But I think our form is beginning to look like a Facebook form. Then let's add some buttons in the form element. So let's go back to the form. So after the div, that's after the class, after the form inputs. So let's add buttons. Okay, so let's add button. So what does it say? Login. Okay, we have a login button. Okay, so after the button, we have a link that says forgotten password. Okay, so that's right. Forgotten password. So that's our link. Then what else? What do we have? Okay, and we have a line. We have a bit of a line. Then we have another button. So let's create a line. Let's create a placeholder for the line. Let's see our link. If our link is displaying, yes, our link is displaying, but it's supposed to display at the bottom. But we'll fix that. So let's create a line. Let's just use a placeholder for that. Then I think we have another button which is create new account button. Okay, so we have two buttons inside the form. So create new account. Okay, so let's see if we have our elements. Let's just refresh. Okay, we have a create new account. So let's begin with the login button. Let's begin to style the login button. Okay, so let's give it a class. Let's give it a class. Let's say class. Say login button. Okay, so let's save it. Let's go to the CSS and create a login button. Okay, so for starters, let's create a background color, but to get the Facebook blue, the accurate code, let's just Google Facebook blue color code. Yeah, so let's just get it. Yeah, so I think this is it. Let's use the hex code. Okay, This is the code. So let's see background color. Background color. Let's paste the color code and let's hope it's it. Let's save and refresh. Yeah, kind of looks like it. So let's change the color. Let's change the color to white. That's the text color. Let's see white. Okay. Let's change the width. Let's give it the same width with the form. This thing with the form. So let's say 3 form input. Let's say 348 pixels. So let's see if it's taking shape as our. Yes, it's taking shape. So let's add a little bit of padding. Let's add a padding. So we're gonna add padding 0 on top and then 16 pi. So let's just refresh and see. Okay, so we're gonna add font size for the button. So let's say font size let's say 20 px. Save it and see. Yeah, so it's big. So then let's add a line height and just line height. Okay, so line height, let's say 48 pixels. Okay, so it's looking big, kind of looking big. Then let's see, let's remove the border. Let's remove the border because it's taking some border here. So let's remove the border. Let's simply say border none. Yeah, that means we don't want to see any border around the button. So if you refresh, every border will leave. And then okay, so we have our button. So let's just say, but then we want to center the button. Okay, we want it to be at the middle. So let's create a class called center. Center. Okay. Display. Let's say flags. Justify content. Let's say center. Okay, so let's copy this class, this center class. So let's create a new container. Let's create a new div and give it a class of that center because we want to center the button. Okay, give it a class of center. So we copy the button. Remember, the div is serving as a container. So we copy the button and save it. Okay, it should be at the middle now. Yeah, so our button is at the middle. But then there is a border radius around the button. So let's give it you can see the button it has a border. So let's give it a border. Let's go back to the login button. It has a border radius. Let's say 10 pixels. Let's say 10 pixels and see if it's okay. Yeah. So but I think we want to increase the size of our button a bit. Okay. All right then. So let's also center the forgot password link. So let's go to the forgot password. So we'll create a new div as well and give it a class of center. Okay, so we put our forgot password. So it will automatically just center the link. Yes, it will center it. But then we want to remove this this underline because it has no underline. Okay, so this link unless you hover on it. So you go to the forgot password. Let's target the elements. Let's target the A element. Let's say A. Say decoration. Let's say none. Okay. So I want to remove any decoration. So you see, what we're saying is that we don't want decoration. Okay. So it's gone. Okay. All right, so let's work on the create new account button. Okay, so let's create a class. First of all, let's center it. Let's center the button first. So let's give it a class of center. So let's take the button here. Let's still leave our div for the underline. So let's center it. Yeah, it's at the center. Let's give it a bit of a padding. Let's give it okay. Let's create a class. Let's create a new class called create account. Okay, let's give it a background color of green. So green is to let's see green. Let's see. Let's give it a light green. At least something similar. Hope it works. Oh, I haven't connected the class. Okay. Right. So let's connect the class. Come to the button. Give it a class name. Okay, create account. Let's save and see if it's taking shape. Yep, we have a green button. And let's give it a height as well. Basically, let's give it a height. So login button, color white. It's going to inherit some things. So let's say color is white. So the text color is going to be white. Line height is, let's give it the same line height, I think. Let's give it a line height of 48. So let's refresh. Let's remove the border just like that. Okay. Okay, let's remove the border. Let's refresh. Yep. So let's add some margins. As you can see in the there's some space between each of the elements. Okay, so let's add the margin. In the forgot password. Where's that E element? Okay, let's see margin top. Have the margin top. Let's say 24 pixels, and margin bottom. Let's say 24 pixels as well. Okay, so let's save. Let's see if it's taking. Yeah, so it's taking the margin. So let's also give some margin at the top and bottom for the creator account class. So let's see if it's taking shape. Yes, it is. So let's come and add our line. Remember there's a line between this. That's why there's a line here. So let's come and create the line. So let's create a line. So let's create a class. Call it line. Okay. So let's go to our HTML elements. So this is the empty div. So we're going to give it a class of line. Line. Okay. So let's save it. So let's start writing our CSS so it can display a line before this button and after the div. Okay. A line will just write a border bottom. Let's give it a border bottom. Let's say 1 pixel. Okay. 1 pixel. Let's say solid. So let's give it a light gray. Let's give it a light gray kind of color. Light gray. Yep. So let's have it. Let's see if it will take. Yep. So you can see our border. So you can see there's a border, but we need to give it a width so that it's not taking the entire width of the whole. So let's see width. Let's give it a percent. Let's see if it's taking. Okay. Let's say 90%. Let's give it 90% and see. Let's save it. Okay, so it's taken. So we need to center the line as well. So we can as well give it a div, center the line. We'll put this inside the div. Okay, so I hope this centers it. Yep, online is centered. Okay, so let's take a look at our entire application. Let's look at our front end. Let's see how it looks. Okay, so this is the one we just built, and this is the original Facebook page. So you can see we just use the flex box to create an interface, the combination of with CSS and all the CSS skills. You see, so there are still some few things we can do. We can increase the font size of this. We can, add the login. We can put spaces between the login button and all that. But you can see the power of CSS. You can see that you can create beautiful interface with CSS. So basically, if you're working in a team or if you're going to go professional, um, you are probably going to be presented with a user interface. As you can see, we just created this out of just comparison. We're going to be presented with a user interface design, probably a Figma design, where you're going to get all the all the CSS in the precise manner, so you don't have to it's going to be exactly the way it is. Okay, so I hope you learned a lot in this. um, I'm going to let you figure out how to like do the rest. Just add the remaining styling so you can give yourself some assignment. Okay, you can also reduce the size between this Facebook image and the write-up. You can also add the font, the Facebook font, and all that. So I will see you in the next session.